Welcome to the Studio Chat podcast. My name is Barbara Thompson. Each week, I'll be bringing you a self-care expert or a message to help you to discover how to live your best life and understand your mind-body connection. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now, let the Studio Chat begin. Hey guys, welcome back to the Studio Chat podcast. Today I have lovely Sam with me. She's from Empowered Holistic Counselling, and you may remember her way back in the old days when we did episode 6. And back then, if you haven't listened to that, I highly recommend that you go back and listen to it because it's all about endometriosis, and it was a really good chat about everything to do with that. But today we welcome Sam on episode 40. Hello, Sam.
Hello. Thanks for having me back. I'm so excited.
It's so lovely to have you here because today I would love to talk about holistic counselling and counselling in its entirety because it's something that could be in our line of work. I'm obviously training to be a counsellor, and you have your own practice. And I thought what a beautiful way it would be for you and I to have a chat about something that I think people really need to know about it, and it's not talked enough about as a self-care tool, as something to reach out for help.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because I think people know what counselling is or seeing a psychologist is, but until you have seen one, but also until you've seen a good one,
that's it.
That can help you, it can be a really scary avenue to think about. You either would shut down and be like, I don't want to go see a counsellor, it's not my thing, or you may have had a bad experience. So I'd love to, I'm so grateful that you're here today spending a bit of time with me explaining about what you do, what is holistic counselling, and we may be able to give some people some advice or, to be able to help them with any questions that they may have or anything like that. So first of all, I'd love you just to, for those that don't know you, just share a little bit about who Sam is and what you do.
Yes. So my name's Sam Murray. How old am I? 34. I opened my business, Empowered Holistic Counselling and Wellness, in 2020. And so I'm a holistic counsellor, I'm a meditation teacher, and I run workshops and classes. So the bulk of my clients that I see are usually burnt out women. I do see a handful of men, but 95% of my clientele are women. So it's really just trying to help people that are similar to me. And I have a history of struggling with mental health, and this is the exact reason why I've gone into this business. So initially, I came from a very different background. So my background was actually in corporate. I worked still in the mental health space to some degree. So I dealt with psychological safety and trauma, and I was that person that you would go to, and I would be encouraging you to go and seek mental health support, whatever that may look like. That might be through EAP sessions, through a workplace, speaking to a counsellor or a psychologist. And it was a couple of years ago now that I found that my health was really struggling, my physical health, and it had a significant impact on my mental health. And that's when I myself went through the system, or the healthcare system as we know it, and had some very poor and very good experiences in there, which sort of led me towards having some time to reflect on what I wanted my life to look like moving forward. And I decided to change careers ever so slightly. And I jumped straight in the deep end and opened up my business in 2020. And here we are in 2022, and next month I'll be open for 2 years.
Wow, that's congratulations on the 2 years. It's
Thank
amazing.
you.
It's amazing, and the work that you do helping people. And it's nice to know your background, where you've come from, what you're doing now. Excuse the background. My dog they're like children. As soon as you get on a call, she knows that I'm doing a podcast, and it's DINNER time soon. So that's why. So we're just going to carry on. But so you did share in that a little bit about why you became a holistic counsellor, but would you be able to share with us a little bit about what's the difference between holistic counselling, seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist?
Absolutely. So there is a difference in the different types of mental health support you can seek. So if we start from the top end, which is the more complex cases, that's the psychiatrist. So they're the fully fledged doctors. They will diagnose and medicate, and they'll deal more with the quite complex personality disorders or significant, really complex trauma. And you'll often see a psychiatrist over a long period of time or even regular support over a lifetime. Then you step down to I shouldn't say step down, you step to the side, and you may see a psychologist. Now, a psychologist is mid to longer term. You can see them in short bouts as well, but they will be talk-based therapy, but they'll also diagnose. So if you're looking to get some answers around a certain type of personality, so bipolar, depression, whatever that might be, and you need some type of diagnosis, that's when you'll see a psychologist. Then we go to counsellors. Counsellors is more short-term based or dealing with a particular issue at hand, all talk-based, so no diagnosis, no medication, just conversation and providing tools. And I guess the key difference there is with the holistic side of counselling. Obviously, mental health is a large aspect of it, but we see health as a whole person. So we talk about mental health, physical health, your social health, your spiritual health, all the things that make up you, because they're all pieces of a pie. And when one is slightly off, it does have that follow-on effect that usually presents itself as physical health and mental health concerns.
Mm. So if someone hasn't seen someone, and I guess we're going to talk a bit about mental health today, but if anyone hasn't seen anyone, what would you recommend would be the best place to start? Would it be to go see the GP, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, if you really have got no idea and you're just looking for some support, I always recommend going to see a GP. The GP, if it's a regular GP, they'll know a bit of your background and they'll be able to direct or refer you depending on what you're after.
Yeah.
So, counsellors, psychologists, and psychiatrists do actually need a referral from a GP, and they'll often fall under the mental health care plan. So you may get a rebate or free sessions depending on what you're after. Whereas holistic counselling, it's a completely private service, and it would fall into the fact of people wanting to look at multiple aspects of their health as opposed to just focus on mental health. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And it kind of leads us into the question that I've got here is, what are some common reasons why people may see a counsellor or a holistic counsellor?
The biggest one, which is very much a blanket, but significant change happening in their life. And that change can look like a career change, having a child, losing someone they love, something that's really sort of thrown them off. And they're trying to find ways to cope or manage their change in emotions and how to regulate that and move forward with their life. That's usually the case where it's one particular thing has happened. In saying that, it can also be an accumulation of things. So if people have had multiple things happen and they're quite resilient, they're like, yeah, it's fine, I'll deal with it on my own. And then it just gets to a point where the one thing tips them over the edge and they might experience, anxiety symptoms, and they might have a very low mood and they're starting to change as a person or behave differently. Or it might even be the fact of just having, physical symptoms of, I can't sleep, my mind doesn't switch off. Well, what do I do about this? That's when you'd usually find someone coming through to see a counsellor.
Yeah, or could it look like if someone just felt stuck? So
Oh, yes.
someone may be in a job for a long time and may not know, I kind of want to do a different job, but I support the family, I don't really know what to do, or I'm in a long-term relationship and I'm not really happy, or I don't know who I am anymore. And I think that can be where it can start too. So sometimes people feel like that they need to see a practitioner, whether it's counselor, psychologist, whatever, just because something it happens to all of us, something happens unexpectedly and kind of gets us off guard. But also the times where we're just doing life and we don't have anyone to talk to, or we would just like a different perspective, or we just, because what happens is how we do one thing is how we tend to do everything. And I think we can get, the older we can get into patterns that we actually are so conditioned we don't realize we do what we do. And then just having someone who's a trained professional who can help us, hey, have you ever thought of this? Or what I found too, when I reached out and asked for help, it was just having support.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, often one side of people who realize that those closest to them have obviously got a biased opinion on what's happening. And it's more about getting direct advice. Whereas a counsellor, you're exactly right, whether it's holistic or a standard counsellor, it's really understanding and hearing what they're saying and offering a different perspective sometimes. Or you've got another group of people that might come through where they don't have support and they don't have anyone to speak to, and they really just need to speak out loud some of the times, and they'll often find a lot of the answers just by allowing themselves to speak out loud to somebody else without having judgment.
Yeah. Or I'm going to chuck one more out there. It could be someone that's wanting to change career, wanting to get healthy, wanting to change their lifestyle, but all the support around them does a certain way. It's a family, it's like a family tradition, or it's what we've always done, or, oh, you want to eat healthy? Oh gosh, don't be silly. And it could be something that you really want to change in your life, or you may want to pick up a new hobby, or change your career direction. And everyone's like, no, we're all doctors in this family, or something. And I think seeing someone like a counsellor or someone like that is a great way too, because we can miss, if we don't talk about it, people don't know. And I think in this space, a lot of people, I know it sounds like a simple thing to talk about. Why would people go and see a holistic counsellor or a counsellor? But us talking about it today, I'm sure we've shared some stuff that people are like, oh, it kind of makes sense, but I would not have linked to seeing a counsellor. I always think that counsellor is linked with, I think most people may think counsellor is linked with anxiety or depression, mental health. Is it kind of, or grief? Do you think kind of that's where a lot of people may think?
And that's where I think a lot of people fall through the cracks, because yes, that's absolutely, a very common trait that people come into. But a lot of people, like you said, they just feel stuck, or they just feel like, I don't know what to do and I feel off, and I may not know what that off means, but I just need to get some guidance and some advice or some support. And whilst we don't give direct advice, sometimes just, again, talking it out loud, seeing a few different perspectives, encouraging them to do some research or what that might look like, helping them find their purpose or their passion can be more than enough in those situations.
Yeah, I think, do you think, how do you think in your experience, obviously running your practice for 2 years, but obviously you've been in this space for a long time, how can seeking mental health support help someone?
It can help in so many different ways. And I think we are, as a society, getting better in terms of the stigma associated with mental health, but a lot of the time we still have it associated with seeking it when we're at crisis point. So I think if we flip it on its head and start doing it as a regular support branch from our whole approach to self-care is really important, because what it can teach us is recognizing our belief systems, and if that still suits us and our lives that we want to live. It can change our perception on situations. We can recognize, like you said, the pattern behaviors that we get stuck in day to day to day. And even from the other end, you can recognize and kind of spot and make changes to self-sabotaging behaviors. You can start to get motivated. You can have that different shift of mindset. And this doesn't mean that every time you see a practitioner in this space, you're going to walk out happier. That's not what this is. It's about learning to move through the tough sections and heal and have the tools to be able to make the changes that you want to make.
Because it's not a lifelong thing. There's a lot of people out there that may think that seeing someone is a lifelong journey, and if it is, like, I know from the counsellor's point of view, it's normally anywhere between 6, depending on, it could be 2 sessions, 6 sessions, 12 sessions, but usually because it's about a particular thing or you're working towards a particular goal, it tends to be that. But the idea of being a practitioner is to help someone in that way, but not to see them forever, because you want to be able to give them the tools. But I think a lot of people may feel like, oh my God, if I open that Pandora's box,
Yes.
I'm going to have to see someone for the rest of my life, because there's a lot going on that
Yeah.
I've pushed down for such a long time.
And that's right. And that's where it sort of is really hard to gauge on what support looks like for each individual person. So whilst most of the time, especially for counsellors at all different levels, that's more of the shorter term approach. The tools that they learn in those sessions, they can use moving forward. So it's not a Band-Aid approach. It's actually teaching them how to recognise and make changes within themselves. So the next time an issue comes up, they'll have the understanding and recognition on their behaviours and their thinking patterns to then be able to put those things in place. And if they fall off or feel a bit wobbly and find it extra support, they can always come back and reach out to the person that they've trusted and has guided them to just sort of, reassure, you've got this, you're fine, you know what you're doing, as opposed to going, oh, well, I've already stuffed it now, I might as well scrap it on, throw it out the window. And I guess that's where the counselling and holistic counselling can be a little bit different as well. So you can actually see a holistic counsellor for a longer period of time if that's something they look for, because sometimes we'll incorporate some life coaching aspects.
Okay.
So that would be more about accountability and support, and again, having goals. But because we look at lots of different health aspects, it would be incorporating those sections as opposed to just mental health.
That sounds so good. So what do people what should people expect in a session? Like, say if they could, let's just say they're going to come and see you, holistic counselling session, what would they expect in their first session?
Yeah, so the first session, I ask clients to book in for an initial appointment, which is a little bit longer than a normal session. And I always make it clear that the idea of an initial appointment is really that we get to know each other, because to make this work in any type of mental health support, you have to be comfortable with the person. You have to feel safe and trust them so you can actually open up. So I use that first session to sort of a bit of a getting to know you. So initially they'll fill out some client intake paperwork, which will give me an idea on why they're coming to me, where they heard of me, and some of the things that they want to tackle straight away. And then I'll explain a little bit about myself, and then I'll pass it over to them, and we'll cover all aspects of health. So we'll go through, again, like I said, any of the initial things they want to talk about, but then I'll ask questions around, what does their physical health look like? Do they have any chronic pain? Do they have any other conditions? How do they eat? How do they sleep? What does stress look like? What does their career look like? And does it align with their overall purpose? What relationships are in their lives? And are they all mattered or considered healthy or having a positive impact on them? What's their social aspects? Do they have friends? Do they have a sense of belonging? So they're the sort of things that we'll cover off in a session. And then at the end, we'd usually sort of wrap it all up, and I'd make some recommendations on how I could support that person moving forward. And if they did want to continue seeing me, make some recommendations and sort of book some appointments in. But it's really important that that client actually connects with me or whoever they're seeing. And if they don't, not to quit. Just because you've met with a practitioner to talk about your mental health, and whilst it's draining and overwhelming to open up, if you don't connect to that person, say thanks but no thanks and go out and find someone else, because the idea is that's important around the support that you need as opposed to the person that you're paying to see.
And most practitioners know other practitioners as well.
Oh, yeah.
So say, for example, if someone did come to you for a session, it'd be the same with me. They come and see me, and you can, when you do this, I can imagine when I've been doing this job for a while, like you, are getting pretty good at reading people. So if someone's a bit off, you can go, hey, look, if I've always got someone else I can pass you on to. So it's more like the hardest thing about any form of counselling is booking the appointment and turning up. I think once you've done those steps, you're well on your way. And I really make a big deal when I see people too. And when I'll be turning into my practice, that's the one thing, is it's like, you know what, you've actually done the hardest thing today. Yeah. Because it's really normal the night before or the morning of, your brain goes, oh, maybe I'll go for a walk instead today. Today's the day I might go to the gym. Oh, I don't really need to go see a counsellor. I'm feeling okay today because
And yes, I'm feeling okay today, so I don't need it anymore. That's
yeah, because normally when, we're going to talk about, we're talking about counselling today, mainly in holistic counselling. They are two different things, as we've spoken about. And I do want to, I come from a counselling perspective, you come from a holistic. So I want to make that clear. But part of that is most people book an appointment when crisis happens. The thing happens and it's been happening for a while, and something I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And you email us, you send us a message on Instagram, or you book on the website, or whatever you do. In that moment, you're at that crisis point where I can't do this anymore. But that point doesn't last. Sure, it may last for a few days or a few hours, but usually when you go and see the practitioner, it's not there anymore. And that's why just when you book an appointment, you turn up, and it's really normal to feel scared and nervous and anxious. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because it means you really care about it.
Yeah.
I have clients that are really nervous in front of me. I'm like, this is actually a really great thing, because it actually means that you're caring about yourself. You're here and you don't know me, or they don't know you.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay to be nervous. It's really normal, isn't it?
And absolutely. And sometimes it's nerves from, not knowing what to expect or not knowing what's going to come out. But also it can be nerves because they don't know what it's going to look like on the other side. They don't know what that positive thing is. And sometimes we put those roadblocks in front of us because we don't know if we deserve to be happier or we deserve these different things. So we put these blocks and blocks up. So absolutely right in terms of being nervous, overwhelmed, and that crisis point dying off and sort of questioning, oh, do I need this? Absolutely. You absolutely do. So then the next time there's a crisis point, you'll know how to handle yourself in the situation. And that's one of the things that I do, because you're absolutely right. Most of my, unless I've already been engaging with someone, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll have someone who's booked in at like 2 a.m. And I'm like, someone's had a bad night. So I'll make a point to, the day before or in the lead up to their appointment, I'll actually just send them an email and say, hey, welcome. Thanks for booking in. It's totally okay to be nervous. It's fine to be overwhelmed. The main thing is that you've booked an appointment, which means you want to do something about it. And I'm here. We'll do it together. We'll go at your pace. It's just about, like you said, going, okay, I've made the decision, something needs to change, but then following through with it.
Because the following through is
the hard bit.
But making the appointment's is the hard bit too. But I think normally there's something that kicks us up the butt. Like there's something that happens, or someone says something to us, or that same thing that we want to change keeps happening over and over again. It may be, I said this week I'll do the diet, I'll go to the gym and I can't do it, or I've had a really bad day at work, I hate my job, or I've had a really bad fight with my partner and I can't do this anymore, or whatever it is. So yeah, but I believe that we all need support in our lives, and it's I think it's a good form of continuous self-care is by checking in with ourselves and having someone like a healthcare practitioner. But what have you seen in your practice so far I know due to client confidentiality, you can't disclose anything, but just as a general overview picture for anyone listening, what are some benefits that you've seen firsthand running your own practice of the outcomes? Like obviously, are people more fulfilled? Are people more directive with how they want their life? Like, is there anything that you can give us that gives people an idea?
One of the big things that I always talk to my clients about, because it is really common, is boundaries. If they walk away understanding boundaries and the importance of boundaries and putting in place and sticking to boundaries in all different aspects of their life, they will generally not feel so run down, overwhelmed, people-pleasing, all these other things that come into the practice. So I really do harp on about boundaries. So if they walk away, even just with one piece of information, I always encourage boundaries.
It's one that's very common, isn't it?
It really is, because so many things fall under that bucket, right?
Yeah, they do. I'm just thinking about them. Yeah, that's where a lot of things come from.
Yeah, so I think if they can walk away putting boundaries in place, amazing. Another really common one is just how they talk to themselves and about themselves. This
Mm,
is that negative self-talk that a lot of us, most of us, if not all of us, have, and it's about recognizing where they come from and changing them, because that will then determine how you respond to people, respond to events, and how you put yourself first.
mm. That's, yeah. Look at you, always pearls of wisdom and knowledge. You, every time I talk to you, I'm like, oh, there's a nugget. It's fantastic. Yeah, one thing too that I do hear a lot about, and it's people that obviously don't see me or probably won't see me when I have a counselling practice, might be the same as you. When you're out in public and people ask you what you do or whatever, and
Mm.
you get one of, oh yeah, I've seen someone, or they try and get you to fix them. You know, when you're at a barbecue, they're like, oh, I've got
Yeah.
this happening. Can you help me? But what I want to talk about is it's not about that. It's about people that feel scared or embarrassed and have a lot of fear when it comes to opening up to a total stranger about
Mm.
their life story. Because like I said, they're scared that once they open one thing, it's all going to unravel. Because a lot of people, it's really common just to push everything down because it's a hell of a lot easier than
Mhm.
sitting in it. And because when you sit in it, it's interesting because when you do the work and you sit in it, you move forward in life. But what happens is sometimes it feels like, I know this will make sense to you, and I hope it may make sense to some listeners listening. When
I
you do
think I already know where you're going. Yes, love
you
it.
do the work, and I've had one of those days today. So I'm very self-aware, and you do the work, and then you have days where you feel like you've literally gone 100 steps back.
Mhm.
You actually haven't, but it feels like, and then you question yourself, like, why am I doing all this work on myself? It's all bullshit. It's not working. I should have just stuck to the old patterns, because at least I was numb, at least I didn't feel anything, and I could just shove everything down and I can push on. And that comes from a lot of people that say counseling, oh, no, it's not for me. I could not sit in front of someone and tell them all my life story because it's too embarrassing. And oh God, like it's almost like a horror that they go, oh God, no, I could never do that. It sounds appalling.
It's one of the things, again, I address most of the time in an initial appointment, going, there's gonna be times where you're not gonna wanna come. It's gonna be really difficult. You're gonna have to put in the work. Other days you'll really feel like you're on top of the world and you've done leaps and bounds, and then all of a sudden you're like, what just happened? 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, but that's okay. That's a whole process, because that means you're starting and building on your foundational health and mental health, as opposed to some quick fix then that later pops up down the track again and again. So whilst it is can be overwhelming, can be draining, it really will build you up for success moving forward. And we only talk about what you want to talk about. If you don't want to go through your whole life story, that's okay.
Mm.
If you just want to talk about one particular topic because that's the thing on your mind, then that's okay. We're completely guided by the client that comes in.
Yeah, so I think holistic counseling would be the same as counseling in general, that most of the time it comes from a person-centered approach, which means
Absolutely.
the client drives the session. So the client, like a lot of people come to counseling thinking that we'll tell them what to do. Like, oh,
Mm.
you can tell us what to do and fix our lives and stuff. We don't fix people's lives. We don't tell you what to do, even though people would love that. It's under the understanding that the client is the expert of their own lives. You can tell I'm in my study because I'm just going, you can tell that's what I'm doing right now.
But it's so true. Like, we can't tell you what to do because we don't know how you're thinking and feeling. As much as you tell us, we don't live your life. We
Yeah.
don't have your life experiences. We don't have the people that surround you in your life that give you either a sense of comfort or feeling, or make you unsteady. We can't make those decisions for you.
Yeah, and that's why we always believe that the client is the expert of their own lives, and that when you come to something like counseling, we work alongside you, and it's a therapeutic type of practice where we hear you, we listen to you, we find out what you want, and we really give you the tools and help you to make a plan to get to your goals.
Yeah, and one of the things I say to people is we can sit here and go through the tools and give you a plan, but again, it's up to you. And if you are ready to make those changes, then go away and implement them and see if they work for you. But if you decide after this that you're comfortable with where you're at, then that's okay too. You need to be ready and willing to take those steps forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's hard, right? Like
Yeah.
it's hard staying the same. It's hard not reaching out for help when you really know that you know when it's time. You know when
Yeah.
to go and see someone. And then it's hard telling people what's going on. It's hard doing the work. It's
Mhm.
hard feeling like and it's really common practice too. Did you find that too? And you find that with your clients that you hear them say, oh my God, I feel like I've gone 100 steps back. But what it is you're aware of it. And I can guarantee
Mhm.
100 steps back isn't what it was. It just always feels so much more than what it is. And that's the beauty part about counseling is you're growing and you're evolving and you're
Yeah.
changing and you're breaking patterns or habits of a lifetime. And most of the time, those habits are subconscious. So a lot of the time we've seen our parents do it or our grandparents do it, our family do it, and we do it. And we're even when we're told, oh, this might be a pattern, because like I said, how we do one thing is how we do most things. And then someone go, how you do this? No, I don't. And then all of a sudden, I've had clients say this to me. Oh my God, do you know how you said that thing? Well, I thought you were full of shit, Barbara, but it's actually true. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's so true. It all comes down to awareness. That's why if you start looking at a car that you're going to purchase, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere on the road. You're like,
Yeah.
wow, there's so many of these. No, it's because that's what you're bringing your attention and awareness to. And that's what happens when you go through counseling. You're bringing your attention and awareness to how you think, how you respond, how your body feels, how you respond to stress, all those sorts of things. So I'm also really clear with my clients saying, you're going through this process, which means you will become hyper aware and you'll be picking yourself apart, trying to recognize and make those changes, but just be mindful that those around you aren't. So you may find that you're at very different levels at different times throughout this process.
Yeah, it's a really good, helpful tip. And don't strive for perfection because there's no such thing and none of us are perfect. And working on whatever we're going through in our life is an ongoing process. So,
Mhm.
once we open, how people say leveling up. So you kind of work out one section of your life and then open something else. You're like, oh shit, okay, now I've got to work. Oh God, now I've got to work out this. So you're leveling up at the same time. But the cool thing about it, and I do find it's cool, I'm always learning something about myself every day, and I keep clicking. Like you have these moments you go, oh, I do this because of this, and you have flashbacks, like good flashbacks. I know that may trigger a lot of people, but I mean in a good sense, because you go, oh, I remember that time I was 15 and this happened, then I did this. Oh, and then in counseling you learn why you do that, and now you're 40 and you're doing the thing that you was 15, but now you've joined that time that happened to this time. Like it's really powerful. And it's really, when you're with the right practitioner, it's really exciting. And I find it really enjoyable.
It's like doing a big 1,000-piece puzzle and you've just had a good run where you've got all the corner pieces or the edges and you're like, oh my God, it's all making sense.
Yeah.
I'm on a roll. And that's one of the things I'm like, when, my clients are having a chat, I'm like, first of all, you do not need to be fixed because you're not broken.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That's
that's
a
a big
that's a
one, right?
biggie. And also, we can't go in with this all or nothing mentality that we have with so many areas of our life, particularly when we're talking about physical health or food or whatever that is. We
Yeah.
don't want to do an all or nothing mentality when we're coming to counseling. We want to do very small bite-sized things regularly to change the habits and then move forward. Otherwise, you're going to run yourself in the ground.
Yeah.
And you're going to set yourself up for expectations that are unrealistic and set yourself up for failure. And you'll always be chasing something that's never achievable.
Or you get it and it's never enough.
Yeah, that's right. Because you're like, oh, now what?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, where do you think that all or nothing comes from? Is it a human thing that we're programmed? Because a lot of us have it. I don't think it's like something that we've seen in our family unit. Is it like, where do you think it comes from, the all or nothing piece?
I think it's a bit of both. I think some of it to us is in our nature because we're trying to make changes to avoid danger, whatever that danger might be.
Yeah.
So I look at it from that aspect, but also just culturally and socially, we've been drummed into us that I'll start the diet on Monday.
Yeah.
I'll start the gym on Monday. And to do that, to be healthy, I need to cut out all of these things and go, excuse the term, like balls to the wall. But you don't,
It's a
because
hammer and tongs, but I do like balls to the wall. And then I think of that song.
On the window to the wall. But what it does is it tells us if we don't fit into that specific mold, then we're not good enough to deserve the positive outcome that comes along with it. So we focus for such a long time until we get worn out, because life is not like that. It's not achievable to live like that. And those people that are really strict with certain things often don't find joy in other aspects of their life because it's not balanced. So you have to take a balanced approach to each specific person with their specific needs, their specific concerns, and their life experiences, because it all works together. It all works as one to make you uniquely you.
Yeah, and if we are all or nothing, which if you are listening to this and you are like laughing, going, "Oh, that's so me," it's okay. But to know that when something happens in our life that's a crisis or something out of our control happens, it can really pull us off. And then the all or nothing, you go the other way. Like it really, again, it's all or nothing, but it's tough. So yeah, I really like it. Yeah.
I'm just like, find your baseline. And then the baseline you can build on slowly, one step at a time, and build up. Otherwise, you will do this really big boom and have all this energy and be motivated and go, let's make all these changes. But then when something in life happens or something doesn't go to plan, we crash and we completely splutter. And then we just can never find that baseline again, because we're already starting, 3 rungs down from where we were. And then it's really hard to keep finding that motivation if you keep doing that, because you're like, why bother? I'm not getting anywhere.
I know. I used to do that. I think many of us did do that. And it is hard. Like life is hard anyway. And just you feel like you've had so many knocks, it's really hard to get back up. But we're built to have support around us. So even if you don't have support, having someone in your life that is a holistic counselor or a counselor can really make or break, I think. Like it can really teach you some things. I've learned some things that have changed my life forever in a good way.
I love it.
Yeah.
And like from when we talk about, so holistic counselling is, based on the mind, body, spirit. And particularly when we talk about body, one of the things that's really sort of driven in that area for holistic counselling is one of two things: the nervous system, so our fight or flight, and what that does to the body and how it responds and the impact it has on our overall health. But secondly, energy. So when I'm talking about baseline, I'm talking about when we're feeling fatigued and burnt out, and it's sort of going, okay, where is most of my energy going? What are my energy givers? What are my energy takeaways? And that's a good way to try to focus or put into perspective what you need to do more of and less of to find that sort of baseline. Because if you're living in a high stress state, your nervous system's still switch on to that fight or flight. It's going to be really hard to do any progress or healing moving forward when you're in that heightened state.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of counselling too, what it taught me just from a personal point of view, it taught me to learn, no matter what stage in life, like we go through different stages and different seasons. I learned that through like counseling, but also what I learned was to be okay with how I am, just as I am now. Because we're living life in the future, which is great for goals and perspective. And we all want to have things to aim for, but we don't live in the now and the today. And that's something that I'm still learning on now is I'm just good now. Like I'm perfect the way I am now. I'm amazing the way I am today. And that's a really hard thing to sit in when you want to be better or be fitter or be healthier, or I want to be this and my life will be okay when you do the work, you pull it back. And even having that conversation with just sitting in your body now, whoever's listening, and just going, I'm okay as I am now. I'm enough. I'm actually enough now. And that's one big thing I've learned doing this work too, is just to learn that really simple thing.
And that's where, for me in particular, that's where meditation comes into a large aspect of it, because it teaches you to be mindful and be present. So when things get too much or overwhelming, or we get caught in our anxious thoughts of thinking of all the possibilities or frustrations, or we get caught, dwelling on the past, that's where it can be a really good tool to try and teach us to be present.
Mm. Yeah, an amazing tool. So before we do a wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to talk about in this conversation?
I think probably just to sort of reinforce that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to speak about it with friends and family if they're supportive of you having an open conversation, because it may change how they respond to you. They may change how they talk to you or communicate with you if you let them know that you're really struggling. But more importantly, you've got to find someone, whoever that may be, at whatever level that may be, that will be able to support you moving forward, because just staying where you are is not going to help in the long term if you're really struggling. So where that's a
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. And as we spoke about earlier, that crisis point, or that point where you go, we all have it, whatever it is in life, can't do this anymore, can't keep going, got to do something about it. Remember, guys, that wears off. And so use that as your platform to go, okay, I'll reach out to Sam. And then just know, I think if we normalize that, yes, it is scary, yes, it is nervous, yes, the first few times aren't going to be nice until you find your person. And it's going to be nice, and you're going to feel all these different emotions, but that feeling of I need to do something is going to come up again. And it's going to come up more and more. And every time it comes up, it would feel deeper, because what it is your body's signal talking to you, hey, I need help. And it's going to keep doing that until you get help or change something. So it's just showing you that something that you're doing is just not working for you.
Yeah, and if you don't have that self-awareness yet, it'll present itself in other ways. Like you might be quicker to anger. You might be socially withdrawn. So there's still different ways it'll show itself if it doesn't sound like I really need to do something about this, or I'm at crisis point. If that's not how your brain communicates to you and recognize those signs, it'll be definitely showing up in other areas of your life.
Yeah. I'd love for you to share a golden nugget. This is something I like to do with all my listeners, all my guests, my listeners, my guests. Is there something that, with your own personal experience or your own experience owning your business for this amazing 2 years that you run your holistic counselling business, is there something that you would like people to know or to be aware of that you think may help them?
That's a good one.
Just like one thing that you're like, oh, I wish people knew this, or something that you've learned along the way yourself too.
I'm sure everybody knows this, but it just blows my mind each time, and I always bring it back, is about our fight or flight system and the amount of impact it has on us. So, back in caveman days, we would recognize a threat. We might be chased by a lion or chased by a bear, and we would physically run away from that threat. And then once we are safe in a space away from that lion, tiger, or bear, oh my, then we would return to our neutral state called homeostasis, and all of our nervous system would go back to normal and we'll just carry on. But in modern days, we're constantly running from these threats, but we're not running from wild animals. We're running from deadlines. We're running from relationships. We're running from all these different things that our body perceives as dangerous. And that can just be the perception of danger. It doesn't have to be a physical threat to you. And our body changes and it puts us into that fight or flight. And when we move into that fight, the way our body operates completely changes. Our blood moves away from our visceral organs because it would have normally gone to our arms and legs so we could get away faster. That may present itself as digestion issues, sleep issues, a heightened heart rate, all these different things that you usually go to the doctors for and go, I'm having all these symptoms. And they go, oh, we did some blood tests and everything looks fine. Why do I feel like this? Why am I so stressed? And that's where stress comes into a large aspect of it, and recognizing how to then calm your nervous system down is a really good mindful tool that you can do, because it just allows you to step back from a situation and sort of take a breath, bring yourself back to the present moment and calm down, and then make the decisions moving forward, or pull yourself up when you're finding that you're having racing thoughts or whatnot. So I think just understanding how our body works and how that presents itself in mental health, physical health, and all those different aspects, just learning that sort of thing and learning how to calm down your nervous system in particular, whether that's going for a walk, a few deep breaths, meditating, sitting in the sun with a cup of coffee, it doesn't matter. It's finding a list of things that you can always refer back to, which can then bring you back to feeling calm.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I do still find that very mind-blowing, and especially where all the blood goes, and that's why a lot of people have gut issues.
Yeah.
Because there's no blood in the gut to do what it needs to do. It's all in your arms and legs. And I say to people, well, what good is it in your arms and legs right now when you're sitting all day in front of the computer, or you're like, people are like, oh, I didn't know. So it's such a great thing that, and also just something simple as biofeedback for me. It was I've always been very intuitive, and I've always known my body was trying to tell me something, but I thought I was being silly. And like, that stuff's all heebie-jeebie, whatever, barbs, But no, it's true. Like, your body, we all have different ways of our body trying to tell us something, but it could be a rash on the skin, which means, oh gosh, your body doesn't like that cream or that food, or just being tired, you're doing too much, or just your bowel movement, or if you're thirsty, or if you're craving a particular food, you might be deficient in something. So it's always really telling us what to do, but we just block it out again because we've just got so many other things, and we'll worry about it later, or we've had it for such a long time. Like, there's plenty of people that I know that have had really bad gut issues for a long time, and they actually live with pain, but the pain doesn't resonate with them anymore because they've had it for such a long time, or pain or swelling, or, oh, it's just normal. That's fine. It's okay.
And how it can present in mental health, it might be that they're so highly stressed over a long period of time because they're not coming back to that neutral state, that they're not sleeping, they're irritable. They notice that their level of anxiety has increased significantly. They don't have motivation or energy to get up and go to work anymore. So it has all these large impacts in the life around them, which then causes extra stress and tension until you keep digging this hole deeper and deeper, and then you feel completely overwhelmed by everything. And then you get a booking at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, we've all been there. So yeah, and everything can snowball too, because everything in our life is connected. Everything in our body is connected. Everything how we feel is connected. Everything that we do on the outskirts of our life, is, whether we believe it or not, is all connected. So just thank you for the chat, because I think it's really important to have this chat. I know it sounds something that's really simple, like, why go and see a holistic counsellor? Why see a counsellor? Why reach out for help when I'm having not a very good day? I think this will shine a bit of light to this, that the key is finding the right person for you, and to be patient and take the time. Know it's going to be a little bit hard. Start. And I think the more that you're aware and know the process, the more that it's like, I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just keep going, because it is totally worth it. And we both see the changes in the clients that we see from the first time to when they don't, there's really big leaps and bounds that people make. So I know that there's going to be people that will want to reach out to you and find out more about what you do, because I know you do online sessions as well.
I do, yeah.
So if anyone would like to see you, or to have a chat with you, or find out more about what you do, where can they find you?
Yeah, so the website is empoweredholisticcounselling.com.au. Otherwise, I have Instagram and Facebook at empowered_holistic_counselling. My DMs are generally opened. Otherwise, I've got a chat function on the website. I've got information about the services, what to expect, price lists, and different events and classes coming up as well. But I am based in Picton in New South Wales, which is in Wollondilly. I also do walk and talk appointments down at Bullay Beach and online.
Oh, that's great. Right. Thank you for, episode 6, you joined us and joined me in episode 40. So I'll probably see you on another 35 or 34.
I love it. Thank you so much for bringing these topics to your listeners, because they're questions we get asked all the time and a lot of things that people think about but may not have reached out and asked. So I think it's really important, and it changes how we talk about mental health just with the people we love. It can be a conversation like, hey, did you hear that podcast? You should have a listen to it.
Yeah, and if you are listening to this and you think that there's someone that may need to listen to it, maybe just send them a DM or send them a link of this chat. And it may just, if someone's going through a bit of, like if you've got a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a friend or a cousin or someone that's going through a bit of a hard time, maybe just flick them this episode and they can have a listen to what this side of counselling or holistic counselling is, and they can just get a bit of an insight, because I think out there, until you've been in it, we've all got different experiences in life.
Yeah.
I'd love to shine light on it, that it is actually can really help your life and can really change your life for the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you again for having me. It's been a blast.
Oh, thank you so much. And I know that we will talk again soon.
Yes. See you, Babs.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and it has inspired you on your self-care journey. Please feel free to share this with a friend and subscribe over on Apple Podcast. I really love hearing your feedback. So guys, please feel free to write a review on Apple and let me know which part of this episode resonated with you the most. To fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness. To find out a bit more about Self-Care Studio or the Studio Chat podcast, head over to my Instagram page, self_care_studio, or on my website, selfcarebybarbarathomson.com.au. Really look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Look after you. And I'll catch you soon. Bye!